is a temporary extension or permanent?
Welcome back to the morning show here on Tobago Updates Television, and thank you so much for staying with us. We continue conversations this morning about post-elections happenings here in Trinidad and Tobago, and more so in the Tobago space. And we continue conversations by speaking with Mr. Ricardo Phillip, and he's the political leader of the Class Action Reform Movement. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, and thank you for having me again. Please excuse my voice. I'm trying to recover from all the physical trials in the last month or so. So I'm not in the best.
That's all right, and we'll take you as you are. Of course, we just came out of the general elections 2025, and of course, we saw the outcome there. And we want to talk a little bit about your involvement, your experience throughout the campaign trail, and of course, the outcome of the results. Going into the race as some people say an independent, but I mean, you're a political leader of a party. There's a party that you have formed. And so I want to talk a little bit about your focus in terms of going in. And I know one of my colleagues probably interviewed you before, but in terms of your focus in going in, and what are some of the things that you were hoping to achieve by entering the race for this general election?
Well, as I have said before, I am under no delusions about my position as far as elections, especially in the last four election campaigns, and probably in a couple again in the future. I'm under no illusions, because I honestly know for a fact that the mission that is really ahead of me doesn't put me in a position to consider winning a seat. Because if you're going to deal with something that people are not accustomed to, you're kind of talking over their head, and that takes time. You can't be aggressive. I have seen those who went into politics aggressively and tried to build party and quick, and then crash. You got to build this right. You got to do this right. Politics and religion is almost sacred to most people. And so when you want to interfere with that, people will know you, but definitely not necessarily vote for you because they hold that sacred. They're not sure. They can't communicate. They don't understand. They're not familiar with what you're speaking. People are accustomed to one narrative all their life. You come with something different, something new. That will take some time. So I am pretty happy with the role that I can play thus far. I'm comfortable with the achievements that I'm able to make under the condition, the limitations and so on. There are a host of things that we can try to fix, and I'm trying to address those matters. But given the condition, given the reality, I'm really, really in a good place.
Right. In terms of being a political leader of a party, how are you intending to build out your party to ensure that you have representation to contest, as you mentioned before, future elections? Because as it were, you are the face and the voice that we know for the party. How are you building out your party?
And that's a good question, and a very, very good point. Traditionally, we've seen people build political party over a couple of months. And people are coming to political party, join political party for their own agendas. The philosophy differs. In my case, I think that it is necessary that I have to build this from the scratch, and then it would attract the right people, hopefully attract the right people. And in attracting the right people, you're able to carry the same philosophy, everybody on the same page. And when that happens, then you have a stronger foundation. And that is where you're able now to carry your philosophy forward. So I'm still doing the groundwork. As I say, you're out there talking to people about, taking control and holding the government accountable, and people, what is that? What do you mean? So that we're still at that mindset. We're still at that level where, and the people who do understand it, their reaction to this, see me, I ain't getting involved in the election thing at all. So that's the two dynamics you're faced with. You got to resurrect a dead from here, and then you got to try to convert from here. So in the middle of that, you're trying to do the right thing, because I know for a fact this is the right thing to do. I can't compromise it. There's no such thing as compromising.
Talking about your philosophy, what exactly is your philosophy in terms of election and governance of the country, the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago? And have you been able to effectively communicate your philosophy to whether it is your followers or even to attract the right people to support you and to come on board and to carry this mantle with you?
People are preoccupied with their economics, and as we are now, politics has taken control of a lot of the economics of people. People are fearful, to come forward and share their views and to take a stand and to stand for the right thing. I understand all of that. But more importantly, I think my political philosophy has always been, and will always be, to change the way we see representation. We see representation. When you go to the campaign and you talk to somebody, the first thing they ask you, what are you going to do for me? And I have also said the question should be, what would you have me do for you? And that creates a confusion in it. What do you mean? So I have to start all over from scratch to explain what that actually means. That means that no political party, no political leader, no political philosophy is going to save you. We as a people have to save ourselves. But how are we going to do that? Well, then we have to start communicating with each other. By way, when there are major issues where we have to have community meetings and community gatherings and sort of discuss the issues, we have to have public referendums on important issues. And so we now as a people would know what we want. And that's how we do it. That's how we keep them in check. It doesn't matter whether you're PNM, UNC, whatever party. The fact of the matter is that we have to hold them accountable. That is the kind of politics that I would like to get into, because I would, God forbid, I would find it very difficult if I was elected to go into parliament and have to deal with that gimme, handout, help out kind of a political philosophy that we are accustomed to. That is the dilemma that we face.
But I understand where you're coming from, and this is a behavioral and cultural change that you're talking about, and this takes a lot of work to change the mindset of a people. How are you, especially a standalone person, because right now you haven't attracted the right people to help you.
Right.
Practically you are taking this fight and this mantle on your own. How do you suppose to transform the mindsets, change the culture, change the behavior of people to understand, because this is a task that you're undertaking.
Of course.
What are your strategies in terms of changing the mindset of people to where you think they should be?
Well, the only strategy I can deal with now is the fact that I have to start. I am the one who started it, and starting doesn't take a whole army to start something. One match creates a fire that you take an army to put out. So I think the sowing is what is important at this point in time. I am sure, I'm certain along the way, because there are like-minded people in this country. There are people who are concerned about the future of the country, concerned about generations and all that kind of stuff. They will come up on the right timing. So I think for me, I have to be consistent. That's one of the reasons why I have to be consistent, because if you're not, then you just wasted your time. So I think now the seed is being sown, and I think people would come along as I go along. But for now, I think what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
And now that we are in this place, you mentioned before that you're not disillusioned. You're not thinking that I'm going to win. You're thinking you're here for a specific purpose.
Exactly,
this is
exactly.
a specific purpose.
Absolutely.
As we are aware, it's going to take some time. We know it's going to take some time
Definitely.
for it to roll out and for it to happen. In the meantime, while the governance of the country is ongoing, what is your position in terms of how things are done? And while you are building your party, while you are building your mandate and your mantle, how are you contributing to the overall development of Trinidad and Tobago?
That's a very beautiful question. There are people who I'm not anti anything, and anti-party, sorry. What I'm anti is wrongdoing, corruption, and all those ills that destroys all of us. Because if, let's take, for example, if the Farley administration is doing the right thing, then I also benefit from it. So I think what I would have to do, and will continue to do, is to provide the alternative. This is not how it's done. This is how it's done. Rather than just being a party of opposition, by definition of opposition, by default rather. So that you're not in the place of condemnation and damnation, but you provide alternative. Now people take that offensive as well. Some people don't like the fact that they can say you've done something wrong. I've always said I can disagree with you and still be respectful to you. I also said that if you and I are friends, you should be able to tell me, listen, you're wrong, and I must be able to respect that as well. One of the problems we have here that supporters of party do not say to their leaders and to the people, listen, what you have done was wrong. So we allow it to go wrong, like what happened to the PNM. They don't say, listen, you are wrong, and we need to correct this.
But isn't this because of the victimization culture that people talk about?
Of course. Of course, absolutely. We have to face all those things. A lot of stuff, we're in a bad place. We are really in a bad place. And I would hate to compromise, what I'm doing because of popular opinion and all that kind of stuff. I think it's important, because if we don't do it, I'm seeing the effects of it, the negative effects of it in the future. It's done in a bad place already, but I'm seeing it getting even worse. If somebody don't take a stand. You can talk about politics all you want out there about, if you're coming into the politics and you want to make a change in Trinidad and Tobago, you have to go back to the fundamentals and see where we're wrong, what we need to do to fix it, and come up with a solution. Not me alone. As I said, I am not asking people to vote for me as some kind of solution to the problems. I'm asking people to let's all together recognize the problem and let's fix it as a people. I don't know no Nelson Mandela or Gandhi or what have you. I am simply saying we need to recognize. We like to bury our heads in the sand. We vote out the PNM and we vote in the UNC and we still haven't addressed the problems. The problems are still there. So the next 5 years, we're back in the same place. And that's all I'm saying. Nothing wrong with the UNC support, nothing wrong with the PNM support, but we have a problem and problems that we need to fix. And as a people, we all are responsible for doing so.
Mr. Phillips, you have been, you said about 4 elections you've been a part of.
Yeah, could be more.
With the same philosophy.
Yeah.
Going forward, wanting to see that measure of change in your mindset, change in your behavior, the culture of the people. Have you seen any impact over the 4 elections that you've been a part of in terms of your philosophy being accepted by the population?
Yes. Well, not population, I mean individuals. I mean, I'm limited also in terms of how fast and far I can go with my resources. But I've seen people there, I understand. But I know in most instances, they're maybe not in a position to say, I'm going to vote for him because what he's saying makes sense. To get to the place of voting for me takes a lot more than just agreeing with me. I understand what you're saying. People are distrust. People are cynical. People are doubtful and all that kind of stuff. You have to contend with to get to that place where people can say, yes, let me give this guy my vote. The people who voted for me are people who just love me. That's basically it. And I understand. I have no illusions about that as well. So I'm happy. I'm thankful to those people. I know that I'm still loved and appreciated. But in terms of the real change in our mindset and so on, I am not there yet. I'm not there yet, and I have no illusions about that. I know the struggle, and the struggle is a lot of personal sacrifice because sometimes people even close to you would disagree and so you had to go through all that. But when you want something good, you got to know that. And when God gives you the wisdom and the guidance and the wherewithal to do it, you got to do it.
And outside of this support in terms of human resources, I mean, there are other resources that you would need to ensure that you get this message across, that you make the indent that you're looking for. Do you have that measure of resource?
No, I don't have. I do this by faith. I'm going to continue every single day to find ways and means. I think what I must admit now, though, is that a lot more work has to be done on my part to continue to promote this message, because I think more people need outside of the election culture, the high emotions and so on. I think now a lot more people need to know with a calmer sense of things. So what I have done in the past, I'm going to change it a little bit in that sense, a different strategy in terms of making sure that I keep consistent in terms of the everyday information and disseminating the information and talking with people. I've done that, but again, I had to work and do this. So that's the challenge.
And that was going to be my next question. How do you remain relevant outside of the election period to ensure that message?
Right, again, that's a very beautiful point. It's something I've thought of, that I need to do more in that area so that when the election time comes, people are not bombarded with all the... You can't compete with the UNC and PNM in election campaign. You can't. You definitely can't. So all the independent candidates who went out there thinking that they're going to win their seat or believe that they're going to win their seat, I knew that's not going to happen, because you cannot compete. So it's outside of the election time, we got to really step up our actions. I think that is the strategy moving forward.
Okay, a very, very unique perspective here. I know a lot of politicians, when they enter in the race, it really is to win, to have the governance of the country.
What happens to them after? Sorry, cutting, but what happens after? You go as an independent candidate or as a small party and you lose. What happens after? You just disappear because you're deflated, you're defeated. For me, it's not about if that was the case, then I would have been out from the first instant. But there's a mission, there's a purpose, there's an underlying purpose that is more passionate and more powerful than just the poor results. And that is what keeps me. Yeah.
Really, really enjoying this conversation this morning. And I just want you to be able to share with our viewers any additional information you want in terms of ensuring that they understand your philosophy, they understand where you are, where you're going, and what's your overall goal in terms of your outcome, and where you see Trinidad and Tobago being positioned in terms of having the measure of governance you are hoping for to transform the lives of people, the standard of living, the way they think, the way we feel, the way we socialize as a people. Where do you see us in the next 5, 10, 20, 50 years?
I would hope, I'm sorry. I would hope that even during the next 5 years with the UNC governance, that we as a people will start taking responsibility for this place that God has placed all of us in. We start taking responsibility for our generations, our children, and so on. I can guarantee you, almost guarantee, and this is not anti-UNC or anti-anybody, but I can guarantee you in the next 5 years, nothing will change for the better for Trinidad and Tobago. So voting the UNC simply because you're just going to be the PNM doesn't change the fact that we still have an issue with crime to deal with. We have an issue with corruption to deal with, nepotism, and all those things that affects us that we can talk about on a daily basis, that we do talk about on a daily basis. But what we do instead is that we cuss and we cuss them and we cuss them and we cuss them and we cuss them until we get fed up and say, all right, I fix it, I'm going to give UNC the vote. And so we have some real problems that I would like to see us, even the civil societies, these are the people who need to come together and say, listen, these are the issues. All the politicians, the political parties and so on, come together and let's discuss those issues that affects us as a people, as a nation. The crimes and the murders and all of this, domestic violence and all those things are important. Because after the election, you ask people, why, really and truly, just tell me, why did you vote blue? Or why did you vote red? Or why did you vote? And outside of all the emotion, they cannot articulate for you a strong argument that you can say, all right, I understand. I agree with you, but I understand what you say. We are not there. We are definitely not there. And political parties get away with that all the time. So on the election campaign, you hear UNC cussing the PNM, PNM cussing the UNC, and everybody's just speaking above the issues. And people get hype. The green, blue is the code, and yellow is the code, and red is the code. And that is what we go on to the polls with. People can't even articulate on the day after election why you vote.
Very, very interesting there. I thank you so much for coming this morning, and I feel your passion, and I do hope that your philosophy is accepted, understood, first and foremost, and accepted. And I do wish you the very best in your political career as you continue to spread your message and to bring that measure of consciousness in terms of changing the mindset and reforming our behaviors and stuff like that in public spaces so that our lives, of course, can be changed. We have to hold politicians accountable. We have to hold the government accountable for the things that they have promised on the campaign trail. We have to ensure that we can measure the progress of the people. We have to be able to measure that we have advanced. And as Ricardo said, looking forward to see if there's any betterment, if by the end of the 5 years that we are in a better position. We have to be able to measure those things as well. Speaking this morning with Ricardo Phillip, political leader of the Class Action Reform Movement here in Tobago, post-elections 2025, talking about his philosophy and his way forward in terms of his political career and, of course, reaching the minds and the heart of the people here in Trinidad and Tobago to ensure that there's a better space for all of us for generations to come, not just for right now, but for a long time ahead. This is where we have to end the morning show, and we're so happy that you stayed with us even to the very end of our show. But this is not where we end our programming. We head on over to GMT, and we do hope that you can stay with us. And as you stay, we invite you to help us. Share the live, share the live, share the live. Have a good one.